Well, hello everybody. How's it going? Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the RambleCast. Today is July 2nd, 2025. And this is the RambleCast. I think I just said that. I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and with me I have Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
So, uh, I was going to start talking about something else, but what in the world is going on with chat? I'm surprised about this. I didn't expect it. I'm not complaining. I just didn't know that they were going to add rankings to the chat. Wait, what?
I don't have a rank. That's so sad.
I wonder if it's maybe just for the wait, no, somehow you do now. Type again. Say something. Yeah, there it is. Okay, it just popped up.
Okay. It's on some of the messages. That's weird.
Well,
Okay.
I think it's just for top 3 people.
Okay. All right. So I gotta keep typing more than Diablo to kick them off.
Exactly.
We're all competing for most bestest viewer, including the people who are on the stream.
Oh boy, it's funny because technically YouTube is doing YouTube's job of trying to encourage engagement, even if it's semi not real engagement. Because channels that have, supposedly, at least this is what they say, channels that have a lot of active commenting are supposedly getting higher engagement, and therefore they're considered to be channels that YouTube wants to send people to. So they're more likely to put you in recommendations lists. If you're live streaming, they're more likely to put you up on the homepage or recommending to other people. So in theory, this is actually a really, really good thing. Also, strangely,
It just doesn't seem to be optimized for channels with like a handful of people in the chat. So then everyone's a winner now, and it doesn't feel quite as special.
well, there's that, but also I'm curious how the XP is doled out, because if you look at the top fans page right now, Hoopy, Corbin, and Alyssa all have 75 XP. It's been 75 XP for the last few minutes, and Diablo is at 50 XP, which it seems weird since he was literally the first person to start typing. So this seems to be a little bit based on how much you're typing, but so it's not based on how long you've been in the channel, I don't think, because I'm pretty sure Corbin got here later. I don't know. I'm curious how this functions, and I suppose if I hit the what's the leaderboard? Top 3 get special badges in live chat, resets every stream, so you can always try again. You need to collect experience points or XP. You get them by sending live chat messages, sending super chats, and super stickers. Okay. Oh, and you can turn it off. I'm not saying that I plan to, but I looked through settings earlier to see if there was a way to turn this off. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to know if it was possible. So evidently there is a way. Opting out of leaderboard, settings, privacy, and live chat, you can toggle the leaderboard off. Okay, so that is a thing. Wait, is that for users?
Anyway,
Yes.
the first thing in the list is Prime Day. I don't know what more there is to say about such a day.
What can you say about such a day? What I'm gonna say about such a day is, first off, heads up reminder for everyone, just because Prime Day is coming up next week, and if you believe in such things, there are supposedly deals to be had. If you haven't already, may I strongly recommend going and getting the Keepa uh, browser plugin or extension, so you can check to see if anything's actually a deal or if it's just had its price raised so that they could lie and say that they're on sale. Um, let's see.
Yeah, and also if you're the kind of person who doesn't want to install any browser extensions because they get access to a lot of your browsing data, then you can just go to the Keepa website and put the Amazon URL in their search, and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what I would do, except Keepa, I use it a lot. So if it's mining all of my data, that's okay. It's a little bit more convenient for me.
Well, it saves you very literally, like probably 20 to 30 minutes a day.
Yes.
Maybe that's an
Yeah.
exaggeration, but probably not by much. Um, and
Yeah, that would be my PSA as well. Is like Amazon will lie to you, and also everyone else. I it might have just been that I was out of the loop for a while, and now I'm back in the loop for work reasons. But the amount of like tech blogs that are just lying or lying by omission is staggering at this point. Everyone everyone is incentivized to sort of hype up sales that maybe aren't actually sales, and it doesn't seem like there's any uh, editorial standards anymore at a lot of those places. I realized a couple of weeks ago that there's one tech blog I really like. That will just publish when certain products are on sale, like every once in a while. And I noticed after a while that every time they publish it, the sale had been going on for at least a few weeks, like 2 weeks. And I guess they're just like on an interval of like, if this thing is on sale, we're going to write a post that says is on sale. And the post is worded not in a way of like, this just dropped in price. It just says it's on sale. So again, like it's just lying by omission. It's kind of gross. So a lot of sites are unfortunately doing that. So you have to stay vigilant. Do your research with Keepa or your other preferred price tracker.
indeed. So,
And yeah, Alyssa said Newegg and Walmart are having competing sales. Everyone is having a competing sale. Like
yeah.
this started basically immediately when Amazon tried to create this as like a weird capitalism holiday, and it's continued every year. Every time Amazon does a big sale, every big retailer also happens to have a sale at the same time. Like it's Walmart, it's Target, it's I'm pretty sure Best Buy. If I go to bestbuy.com, there's going to be something there about it, about their sale. Um and a lot, yeah, there's saying 4th of July sale, but I have a funny feeling that's going to extend well past 4th of July into next week. Um and also they're also doing that because a lot of the products that end up going on sale for this are just like the manufacturer setting that price, and they tend to do that across all retailers.
Mhm.
So that's a useful trick, is if you see something that was on sale at Amazon and it's like sold out, just go look at other stores. They're probably still there, especially because, and this is another tip. I'm giving out so many tips today. One thing I learned during COVID, when a lot of stuff like laptops were out of sale, is everyone now goes to Amazon first. That is like the default place to get stuff. So if something's on sale and it's out of stock on Amazon, just go. It's probably still in stock at other places. Go to Best Buy, go to B&H Photo. Everyone forgot that exists, but like they
Oh, I
sell a
remind
bunch of
everyone about
mainstream
it.
stuff. Yeah. Go check Target, go check Best Buy. Like it's the prices are going to I'm pretty sure most stuff will be the same price across retailers. There's going to be a couple of things that like Amazon worked out deals that are going to be like Prime exclusive and won't have the same exact discount at other retailers, but most stuff will be the same.
In fairness, the opposite can also be true. Because
Yes.
Amazon is how do I put this kindly? Amazon can be very manufacturer hostile sometimes, and because of the way that some of the background finances work out, some of the manufacturers actually do basically it costs them more when they sell something through Amazon. And so sometimes they actually basically just pass that on in Amazon's pricing. And then with other retailers, they actually charge less. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. So, yes, my my recommendation is generally always kind of check other retailers if you can. You don't have to, but it's surprising how often it helps. You really will come up with a lot of unexpected price advantages by shopping around again. The catch, obviously, though, is like everybody is an Amazon Prime subscriber, so the free shipping is always attractive.
Yep. And as always, if you get convinced into buying something you weren't going to buy anyway, it's not saving money. You are, in fact, spending more money than you would have otherwise spent. So
This is
go into any sale event with clear objectives and do not stray from them.
yes, I firmly agreed on that. However,
Hello, Austin.
yes. By the way, hello to Austin, Hoopy, Alyssa, and Diablo, and also
That's
technically
communism.
Corbin.
Yes, communism is when you buy something on sale.
Um, with all that said, I'm going to say if you are going to buy anything for Prime Day, I will welcome you to use. I don't have it up yet, but I'm going to put up a basically referral code a page web a web solution, we'll say, and you're welcome to use that if you would like to basically use your consumerism to help support the channel. Do not, I'm going to say this very adamantly, do not buy anything for that purpose. Only buy things that you'd actually be getting. But if you don't want to give the affiliate money to somebody else, if you'd like to give that to me, I'll happily take it. And that's how I'm gonna spin that one. I will encourage good consumer habits, and that is, and if it happens to benefit me, I won't complain. Okay, so, and by the way,
Jarring shift in tone.
well,
Um,
I mean, right now we're saying things in a happy tone, and we get to keep doing that for just a little bit longer, because
okay.
a lot of the news turns darker in a bit, but we do get to at least start with the hot new social network of the summer. I mean, it's literally like it it's so perfect because it's also the coolest one. Ice Block, baby. You've heard about it. I'm sure everyone here has heard about it by now. Um yeah. Uh I almost don't know how to start describing this, but it's
Well, okay, so we're living in a really fun time where we all have to kind of pretend to be normal while the United States government is just rounding up whoever they want and putting them in concentration camps. And in fact, the one in Florida just opened with a very dumb name and its own merch. So it's pretty horrific right now. And someone actually I don't know anything about who made this, but someone built an app called Ice Block that basically keeps track of your location in the background on your phone, and if there is a reported raid of ICE, the immigration, I don't even know what it stands for anymore. The Trump's Gestapo. If they're around you, the app will send a notification, so you can be vigilant, and you can also report sightings in the app if you see them, which is pretty difficult because they don't dress like cops. They kind of and they're in like usually most of the pictures and video I've seen of them are in just kind of like weird tactical gear that wouldn't be that different from someone who's just like really too much into hunting. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say
also,
they may not technically have like a very obvious uniforms, or they don't choose to wear them a lot, but they're also about as subtle as a brick through a window. They
yeah, okay, yeah.
they
Alyssa said
stand out like a
immigration
sore
and
thumb.
customs enforcement. Yeah, I thank you for the spelling that out because I can't remember anything anymore. Yeah, like someone who's too much into hunting, someone who's going just a little bit too hard into airsoft, like that's the kind of vibe. Pretty much all of them covering their face as much as possible because they get recorded on video a lot, and they would like to continue being anonymous so they don't have to face any repercussions. Which it's bad if I want to wear a mask when I go to the grocery store. But they're allowed to round up people and they can have it.
Okay, okay. So I know it's weird tangent, but I know it's illegal to impersonate um, federal authorities or law enforcement. But I wonder, like, have you ever gone to the store and had somebody like give you crap about wearing a mask? Part of me is now wondering, like, what if someone gave you crap and it's like, listen, if ICE does it, I'm gonna do it. I'm just curious, like, what would their
I don't think
reactions
that would
be?
fly.
I think
Yeah, I
they're.
mean,
I'd love to see the reaction from somebody who's like, I
yeah.
have arguments, but I don't know what they could be.
I've only Austin said I do all the time. Oof. Yeah, as of yet, and I imagine this is part of my straight white male privilege. Jesus, I can't even talk anymore. Is that I've only, as far as I can remember, I've only got like two. Uh, I've only had shit from random people twice for wearing a mask. One of them was I was just going in to get my hair cut, and some guy who was like driving by in a truck like stared at me. I think he also like honked, and then he went away. It was one of those things where like in the moment I like wasn't really thinking about what was going, so I was like, that's kind of weird. And then like a minute later, I was like, oh, you know, that's what they were being weird about. And then the other time is when I was driving back from Orlando after a Disney trip, and I pulled over in a rest stop, still in Florida, of course. It had to happen in Florida. And I went to pee, and I was going back to my car, and some like old lady was like, I forget exactly what she said, but it was something like, "Hey, you know those like damage your brain, like they cut off oxygen to your brain." And at this point, I was very sleep deprived, so I was just like, "Okay." I was like, and then she walked away. I would have come up with something better to say, but again, in the moment, I was like, "Okay, that's weird. I don't want to talk to you right now."
Oh boy, man, I so far, very surprisingly, living in a very conservative part of Oregon. Um, I'm surprised that I haven't gotten more about it. I've really only gotten like I think I had one person like yell at a distance something, but other than that, I haven't had anyone say anything. I have had several instances of people kind of giving me weird looks.
Yeah.
Um, and just in the last, oh, I want to say this was like 2 weeks ago. I might have that a little wrong. It doesn't matter. Um, I just finished shopping for groceries at one store, and as I'm walking out, this guy I'd have to put him in his 80s, I guess maybe late 70s. He just kind of he's giving me this weird bug-eyed look as I'm walking by, and like he even kind of is as we were kind of passing each other, he kind of is still turning and staring at me, I turn and look at him just a bit, and his eyes immediately dart away, and he's like, okay, and never mind, never mind, never mind, don't look at me.
Yeah,
You know, and it's like,
yeah. That's the thing with these people is like as soon as you press them a little bit, I at least with some of them, it like snaps them out of Fox News mode, and they're like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm doing. I was just told to do this on TV.
well, I mean, there's that. Plus, there's
If you're
also,
gonna harass me in public, you have to have conviction about it.
yeah.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
mean, there's that, and also, and look, I did nothing threatening at all, but I think it's fair to say if you're a 75, 80, 85 year old guy who doesn't matter how tall he is, but let's say he was probably about 5'8", and you're staring up at a guy who stands 6'2", 6'3", who is considerably like half your age, you probably don't F with that guy. Like, you don't do something to anger him because you don't know. Like, I'm not gonna do anything to him. I'm not, like I said,
And
I'm
again,
not
like,
threatening. I'm not a jerk. But you
and
never
this
know if you are
being
going to encounter the jerk.
and this being the country that it is, you could have a gun. Also,
Being
like,
Oregon
yeah,
is Oregon's totally okay with carry and conceal. So at least I think we are.
I, I
Um,
I think North Carolina also is, but it's not something I've looked into myself.
yeah.
Austin
So
said an elderly woman who identified herself as a holistic doctor, told me my mask was doing more harm than good to my lungs. I replied, "Ma'am, I have cancer." She replied it was from the mask, LOL.
oh god.
Uh,
I mean, it's not funny, but
I
it's also hilarious.
I think you should. I think if you, I think in certain situations it should be legal with no repercussions to just sort of slap someone. Not like in an injuring way, just like cut that out.
Yeah. I
Austin should
honestly,
have
yeah.
responded, "You're a real doctor." Yeah, keep one up.
Yeah, actually that would easily really blow them out of the water. Um
He's not gonna check for ID.
oh, they'll totally demand to see your papers. Show me
Yeah.
documentation.
Here's Yeah, sorry, I keep my doctorate in my ass. Let me just pull it out real quick.
Okay,
Um,
you know what, really quick on that point. Have you ever known any doctors? Legit, half of them really are that way. Like, for real. I've known so many of them. You've never met someone more proud of their occupation outside of like astronauts. So
oh
many
yeah, I
doctors
mean,
are like, hey, everyone, just in case, like I walked in the room, in case you don't know, MD right here. But yeah, yeah.
I mean, if it also took me 5 years to do something or more, I'd probably be that way too.
I
I
mean,
would try not to be, but I understand. But yeah, like I know that's a thing, and also a lot of doctors having like super bad God complex. Because again, I think you would have that. Um, yeah, so this app I did install it on my phone. So if I see any suspicious individuals, I'll open it up. Um, I'm probably not the demographic that they will try to shove in a car, but give it 6 months, that might change. Um, I do still bring my ID with me everywhere now, just in case, if that matters.
fortunately,
Um, and
you're probably one of the least likely to be picked as a possible illegal immigrant. But
yeah, which is weird because I am. No, I'm just kidding.
um, but yeah, yeah. Well, here's the thing: I can't install this app on my phone because they hate Android. Um, Unfortunately, this is an iOS only social network. And the developer claims, and I want to emphasize the use of the word claims, that the reason for this is that he does not collect any IP addresses, doesn't collect any sort of personal information, and basically everything is handled by an anonymous system of sending the notifications and taking the reports. And he claims that that only works because of the way iOS handles notifications, and that Android handles them differently in a way that would require collection of information. He's wrong. He doesn't. That's not at all accurate, but it is what it is. So, I'm not gonna get mad at him for being wrong about that. Maybe for the way he said it, because when you give bad information, it has a tendency to spread. Kind of like how the director Ryan Johnson, when he directed Knives Out, he said that you can't use an iPhone on a villain because Apple prohibits that. That's not true, but it's a thing that a bunch of people still believe. And so people have a tendency to believe things when they hear them, and so he is giving bad information. But that said, hey, the app does exist. It is still at least serving a purpose. Sadly, it's just also kind of selling iPhones sort of incorrectly, I guess is the way to put that.
Yeah, I mean, this does remind me of something that I honestly have not thought of in at least like 2 or 3 years, which is the brief moment that Apple and Google were working together on COVID contact tracing, and they did that in a way where there was kind of a shared database, and they a lot of work went into making that like as non-personally identifiable as possible. And some of that work, I don't know if any of it got explicitly repurposed, but like a lot of the same lessons probably went into the Find My Tracker cross compatibility stuff. So if Apple and Google weren't cowards, they probably could just implement this on the system level again, like the COVID stuff. But I doubt they will do that. And the Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem complained about this, and I don't think they've done anything. Apple has left it alone so far. So not even her and her badly deformed face can pull this down.
Oh, Corbin, don't bully people over their appearance. She can't help what she's done to her face.
Yeah,
because I feel like that had to have been a personal choice of some kind.
Yeah, I try not to go for the insulting appearance, but she is one of the worst people currently in a position of power. So, ooh, no sympathy left in the tank. Sorry.
So really quick, yeah, I guess just to kind of fill out that part of the story for anyone who hasn't heard this. So the initial reporting about this app, once it gained some traction, came from CNN, and Caroline Leavitt decided to, this is the press secretary of the White House, Caroline Leavitt basically went after it, saying that this was an attack on ICE agents, that it was I don't believe she used the word doxing, but basically that's what she's kind of implying it is. And that it's painting a target on their backs. Frankly, I think that is the stretchiest of stretches. I get why that's an assertion. If you don't understand how the app works, you might even be convinced that that's true.
Yeah, because like it doesn't even let you like upload a picture, does it?
Well, you can't upload a picture. You can add notes. So you can add text notes basically saying,
okay,
they're driving this or they're wearing that. But no, as far as I'm aware, you cannot upload pictures.
Okay, yeah, there is a text field for notes along with the address, but Yeah, I mean, like they already hide everything about themselves. So, like, honestly, if I saw one, I don't even know what I would put in there. Besides, like, there were five guys in airsoft cosplay uniform um, across the street. And yeah, like that's because like this is just like a slightly different version of Google Maps having the button to report a speed trap. It's the same. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. It's just much more bleak. Um, but I think we've all agreed that's fine, and also some cops have found ways around it or how to abuse it. So
Well, I'm sure what they are probably already doing is just reporting as many different addresses and locations as possible and spamming. At least that's if I were
yeah,
them and trying to be, trying to be evil. That's what I'd be doing. It just report a bunch
yeah.
of
I mean
stuff.
that's what cops have done. Where
Yep.
there's been stories where if there's like a road where like they want to try as hard as they can to get people to stop going as fast, is they'll just go down the road and click the report speed trap for like a good couple mile stretch, and that works.
Well, not only that, but a lot of times what they'll do, and I've known some cops that just straight up said that they did this. Um, what they'll do is they'll report a bunch of speed traps, and then they hang out somewhere past those speed trap spots.
Right.
Um, and basically, once people have kind of desensitized to getting warnings and notifications about speed traps, then they're like, okay, we're tired of this. We're just going to drive the speed we want to drive. And then that's when they get nicked. Um, and yeah, in theory, um, if you're in ice, the smart trick would be pick at like 5 neighborhoods or 5 areas where uh, you don't plan on going, and you just report ice sightings in all these areas, and then you pick some other spot that you think, all right, if people are going to try running from this spot to this spot, then where are they going to pass through? Where would they go? And then you just set up a spot and try watching for people who are possibly passing through those areas. Um, Though obviously that also doesn't make a lot of sense because you got to figure with these sightings, the smart thing to do is probably just find a actual hiding place. Don't don't go moving around a bunch, you become too visible. Just find a place to hide and just lay low. One would think. But anyway,
Yeah, pretty bleak. Definitely increasing number of days where the only way I can be productive is just to kind of like tune everything out. Uh, and very normal things happening in this country. So, speaking of government, um, more TikTok stuff.
okay, I was going to say wait.
So,
What?
in case everyone has forgotten, TikTok was banned by a law passed by Congress back when Congress used to do that. Instead of we just have executive orders for everything, and it required that TikTok, or at least the U.S. part of TikTok, be sold to someone who is not based in China, or something else the U.S. government does not approve of, or it would be banned in the U.S. And I don't know why that was passed in the way it was, but that's a different thing. And the time ran out just before Trump took office again. And one of his first things in office, or rather before he took office, he promised, "I will not enforce this," which, by the way, is not how laws work. But everyone just kind of went along with it. So based on the Pinky Promise, TikTok restored service in the U.S. I think it was down less than 24 hours. And uh, the executive order he ended up signing, I think, I don't know if it was 60-day or 90-day delay, but he did that one or two more times. while they tried to find a buyer. And now, now there is more news where Trump said they have a buy. There is a confirmed buyer for TikTok. And when he was asked about it, he said it was a quote group of very wealthy people quote, which will be announced in quote about 2 weeks end quote, which is his favorite saying now. He also said that uh, when he was asked like what would he do about Iran, and then like 2 days later we bombed them. So look out TikTok headquarters for a stealth bomber. And they don't. Trump has not said who this is yet. There's rumors that um, it's not. I don't think it's in this Engadget article. I saw Oracle mentioned once.
Yeah, this article doesn't
Um,
really get into the speculation too much, but certainly the expectations are that Oracle and or Larry Ellison will somehow be
okay,
part of
tech.
this.
Tech. I'll put this in the sheet. TechCrunch has an article about some of the speculation. They reportedly include Oracle, Blackstone, and A16Z, which is Andrew. As I forget his full name, but it's like and Andreessen Horowitz,
Hmm.
Andreessen Horowitz, that one of the worst tech venture capital firms. So just great group of people here, entirely who I expected would be handed to TikTok, if not Microsoft, who tried to do it the first time. Um, so
Yeah,
good stuff.
this would basically uh, this would basically confirm that TikTok would become the next Twitter, and by that I mean basically run by a right wing crackpot organization. Um, so that's not wonderful, but I think it's also pretty much predictable. Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's still the possibility that China could say no, and then TikTok just gets banned here, and that's the end of that. Um, but I don't know. Crazy stuff been happening a lot lately. Um,
I'm also curious. Yeah,
so
I am partially curious if China will agree to this. As far as I know, well, I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but I don't think I've heard or seen anything suggesting ByteDance itself has even agreed to this. Um, it seems like from everything that I've heard, it sounds like these so-called negotiations haven't actually been negotiations so much as just trying to make sure that they have enough money to make a compelling offer. Um, but yeah, it's really unclear that anything's actually materialized in
Co-
this.
Cody, we already finished talking about Iran. We're talking about TikTok now.
Oh, we're coming back to Iran, but anyway, um,
Oh no, don't say that.
no, we actually
Let's not
have.
bomb that again.
We're talking about Iran again in a little bit, but that'll
That's true.
come later. Um, no, the thing is though, I'm not convinced yet that there's even actually a deal, so much as they've just established that there could be a buyer. So we'll see what happens
I mean,
in about 2 weeks.
I mean, again, I feel like the most likely scenario out of this is just Trump says it's dangerous and then bans it again, and
Mm-hmm.
then TikTok like pretends they like did something, and then he unbans it, and then Trump gets praised for unbanning it for the second time. Um, I know he also has some desire to make other evil people rich, but he also cares about himself more than anything else. So either of those seem equally possible to me.
Well, okay, so one of the things that I certainly speculated at one point was some of the companies that would be likely possible buyers. And obviously we know Microsoft was on that list. I theorized Amazon would make a lot of sense in that they obviously would actually like to have a successful social network of some kind. And they do have the resources and probably have the money, more or less, or at least could work something out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I mean, like TikTok at this point is like a store with a video platform attached to it.
Yeah, which
So
is basically Amazon
would in
already.
fact love that. Yeah, they would love that.
And yeah, so the theory that I kind of have been cooking is the reason all of this has taken so long is probably because Trump and whoever else wants to invest in this has probably been one by one pushing all of the other potential investors out so that they have basically only this one choice, which would, if the theory is correct, it would be Oracle, Blackstone, and Andreessen Horowitz. So I kind of think that that's why all of this has taken so long, because they wanted to make sure that there just was no competition. And that way, when it comes down to giving an offer, it basically becomes, hey, we can either ban you for real, and this time it won't get canceled, or you can sell to this and at least get money. I don't know if that's the case, but it feels to me like the most realistic explanation for basically all of the events that have taken place. And I don't know, maybe that's a little too tinfoil hat, but it just feels like the way that things run in this country right now. Creepy backroom deals that are more about pushing out at least the qualified buyers and pushing in people or organizations that are otherwise kind of scummy in all of their typical ways.
Yeah, it's really fun. Man, I'm only now realizing that more than half our topics are about the U.S. government doing not good things.
You're only now realizing that, huh?
Well, I mean, I knew the topics, but I forgot who instigated all of them.
Yeah, well,
So,
there was no way around it. I mean, sometimes, look, you may not f with politics, but politics f's with you. That's what Philip DeFranco's thing.
yeah.
So
And yeah, and we're uh still, relatively speaking, keeping it light with current events. I'm trying not to be too much of a downer here.
well, that's why
Uh,
I'm delivering almost everything with a smile and a laugh, because
right.
this stuff sucks, and at least we may as well make fun of it, because that's kind of all we can do.
And I'll do the thumbs up. We'll get some of the anime. Are they not gonna work? Come on, Mac. Come on.
Apple is betraying.
I gotta click the button. I gotta do everything around here. There we go. Okay, so we got that.
Doing
Here
all
we
the
go.
hard
Party.
work.
I'll do this the next time I mention ice. Guys, don't freak out. Yay! Confetti.
Okay, so anyway,
These effects work so well with the power of the M4.
ooh, they actually do look a little better than what I remember from your M1 results.
From me accidentally doing it for the
Yeah,
15th
that too.
time. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what? Just they're obviously connected, but I'm gonna change the order of the next two, just swapping them because it feels like it makes sense. Okay, so I said we were going back to Iran, and we are. Except this time we're going to talk about Huawei. Good old Huawei.
I forgot about these guys.
I think a lot of people forgot about Huawei. So this, yeah, that's the thing. This is one of those pieces of news that kind of, it didn't fall under the radar at all. It did get attention, obviously. Thank you, Engadget. But, you know, we don't tend to follow legal news that closely, and this one obviously is sort of straying more into the legal than anything, but it's kind of the follow-up for good old Huawei, which at one point in history was looking like it was going to be our next big phone brand in the US. Like, their growth was enormous. And they were actually making really good products. And that all kind of vanished when the Trump administration decided they were going to basically kill off Huawei for reasons. And the accusations kind of went everywhere from they're stealing your information, they're including hardware that's like hacking infrastructure. They made a lot of weird claims, some of which possibly are true. We don't actually know. Some of which are definitely not, because they made the claims and then those claims kind of just disappeared again. They just went away and nobody really knew what was going on. So yeah. Anyway, Huawei was added to the, I forget what the name of the list is. But
it's the no list. You don't want to be on the list.
Certainly that is true. But anyway, they were added to basically a list of companies that first the U.S. government basically can't purchase from, and then effectively basically said U.S. customers aren't really allowed to have direct access with these. Not to say that you weren't allowed to use the phones on a network or something like that, just more of a carriers are not really allowed to sell them. And that was pretty much the direction that this went. So anyway, one of the while a lot of the claims and accusations about Huawei are dubious and nobody really knows what's up, the one thing that we do know, or that the US government seems to actually have some valid claims about, is that Huawei was also working with Iran. And by working with, I just mean selling product. And what this amounts to is basically, or what Huawei's defense is to some extent, is that they were working with a Hong Kong-based company named Skycom. And Skycom was the one actually doing business with Iran. And I'm not sure what the details are of this. I didn't look deeply into this, but I believe basically Skycom was effectively like a distributor. And so Skycom was actually distributing to Iran. Huawei, because it was their products, kind of got held accountable for this. And to some extent, that's actually kind of a valid thing. Like, every time we yell at Apple or Samsung or anyone like that for using slave labor, chances are it's not them actually hiring, or rather creating the slave labor situation, but they're working with like partners, manufacturers,
it's a
distributors.
subcontractor of
Exactly.
a subcontractor. And
yeah, it's like, you guys are responsible for knowing this stuff, so we're gonna blame you even if you're not the ones actually technically guilty of it. So we do this all the time anyway. It's kind of, I don't want to say standard practice, but it is. So anyway, yes, Huawei is being held accountable for this, and as the title of this says, they are actually going to be expected to answer for criminal charges for violating sanctions on trade with Iran. So let's see. There was a date on this. It's somewhere here. I am sure there was a date. I know I read it.
May 4th, 2026.
Ah, yes. Okay. It was there at the top. I should have thought. Okay. But yeah, so they are going to actually show up in court, and presumably show up in court and have to answer for doing trade with Iran. And look, all the other stuff, I still will say I think Congress should have been obligated to give more detail, be more open about what was happening. Um, and to that extent, I think the American public was owed more. However, when it comes to the Iran stuff, nah, yeah, go for it. Hold Huawei to account for that. 100%. That part's valid. So, yeah, that at least for now is the update. Corbin, you're welcome to chime in. I didn't want to take control of this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any opinion about Huawei. And I do agree that this would probably, out of the things that our government is doing, this is one of the ones that, like, I guess probably makes some sense, but I'm sure it will not be conducted that way.
Oh God,
I'm
no.
sure they'll like show up to court, and whoever is representing the U.S. will say like Communist Party and Communist China about every sentence, and no one will learn anything. Because that's just how we roll now. Now do OnePlus. We're getting to OnePlus.
Yes.
Just hold your horses, Austin.
It is literally the topic that I swapped the order for.
Yeah, we can just go to that next,
Yeah.
I guess, because I don't have a take. So
OnePlus is about to get
yes.
Huawei.
Yeah. So Engadget said a pair of U.S. lawmakers have called on the Department of Commerce to investigate OnePlus over allegations that the company's devices transmit data to Chinese servers without user consent.
Hey, I've seen this episode before.
Bipartisan effort. I've seen this is a rerun. There's no actual data to go along with the allegations. I'm sure they probably are, because really every smartphone sends some user data somewhere you don't know about. It's just that OnePlus is the one that is owned by, or is basically part of Oppo, but they like to do like the half independent thing. I don't know how the current corporate structure goes down, but they're in part Oppo, which is in mainland China. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if this eventually leads to OnePlus getting the Huawei treatment. I think the fact that they haven't already is just because no one cares. They're not important enough. Huawei got the Huawei treatment because they were very close to doing like major carrier deals with, I want to say AT&T, but maybe others. And they were they're a much bigger company, I believe. So I think OnePlus has just kind of gone under the radar, especially in the U.S., where maybe maybe in overabundance of caution more than anything else, OnePlus has really kind of scaled back its U.S. ambitions. There was a time where they were doing more carrier promotions and more partnerships like that.
Well, they were
They don't
definitely big
seem
with
all that
T-Mobile.
interested. Yeah, they don't seem all that interested in the U.S. anymore. Like, you can still buy the phones here unlocked, but I don't think any carriers are selling them, and they're not. I don't know what kind of marketing they're doing over here anymore. So it wouldn't surprise me if part of that was not trying to rock the boat, but also it could have just been them going like, yeah, the US smartphone market is like really difficult to break into, and we're not going to worry about this right now when we have like India.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Last time I checked, there's a lot of people in India. And of course, they sell phones in mainland China and other regions as well. So US smartphone market's pretty locked in. Very difficult.
It certainly is. And yeah, to me this is going to end in the ways that are entirely predictable. I think we know that whether OnePlus is guilty of this or not, they're basically going to be added to that same list if they aren't technically on it already. And look, that guilt doesn't really matter here. It's going to be just basically a form of the typical xenophobia. It's going to be a whole lot of sort of a blame China rhetoric, and none of this is going to a courtroom. This is literally just lawmakers who are trying to basically drum up your typical, like, hey, here's a Chinese company, they've got IT
Because there's
products.
nothing else happening right now.
Oh, nothing at all. There's not multiple wars. There's not massive deportations going on throughout the United States, or well, that's putting it kindly. There's not a secret police force running around rampant. No, literally nothing going on right now. So yeah, let's.
I think this is just what you do in Congress when you get like a little bit bored. You're like, what if I did a little bit of xenophobia today as a treat? I haven't done some in a while. I'm pretty bored.
So
because again, they're not doing anything.
I'm gonna kind of spin the speculation just a little bit and say I think it's probably because all the other companies that they had to pick on, obviously Huawei being the obvious example, but let's also say DJI. Right now, they've run out of other targets, so they're starting to look for other companies because DJI is not really it's not really a good time to go after DJI again. Basically because they were already given, I think it was 1 year to explain themselves and prove they weren't villains working with the CCP. And yeah. So if DJI is already in that position, then it's time to go look for a new dog to kick, basically. So OnePlus, everyone, I remember so many people saying, wait a second, why isn't OnePlus being targeted? Why isn't OnePlus being targeted? And then OnePlus kind of just faded away, as you just discussed. But it's not like OnePlus is coming back in any sort of big way. No one's doing any big deals with OnePlus. This is just like, hey, we were saving them for later, and now we don't have anyone else on our list, so let's hit them anyway. Honestly, I think they're, like you said, they're bored or they just need something to do. But I think it's also just literally a case of they don't know who else to hit, so they're just hitting the next one down the list.
I mean, I'm kind of surprised they haven't gone after like Anchor or someone else. Like one of these like companies with more sales in the US. Like, I know
it's hard to go after batteries though.
Well, you're right. Like, if I'm pretending that this is actually about like the privacy and security of America, then like, yeah, a wall charger wouldn't be that big. But like Anchor sells like smart stuff too. Like they do like robot vacuums and that kind of thing. What if there's a robot vacuum uprising, Cody? We're not protecting our country against the vacuums.
Okay, so now obviously I do agree with what you're saying, but I can provide better names. Instead of going after Anchor, how about TerraMaster or Ugreen? They're both Chinese companies that make NASAs. I mean, Ugreen's pretty new to the market, so that's no congressperson knows this name, but TerraMaster's been around for a while, and people are actually putting critical information onto TerraMaster NASAs. So that would actually at least make some sense. And look, I'm not disputing that OnePlus makes sense for all the exact same reasons, but there are... I'm just saying there are other targets I would certainly go after before Anchor. Though networking products would probably be actually my first pick. There's a lot of...
I mean, that's supposedly what's happening with TP-Link.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
What's going on with there?
But that's not the only one either. There are plenty of networking companies that are uh, Chinese based, and those would be, in my mind, honestly, I would be going after those before OnePlus. Um,
Austin said they should be looking into the hundreds of white label smartwatch and tablets on Amazon. I mean, they would if they were serious, because like those are absolutely like actually a sketch, and are definitely not uh, keeping your data private or secure, probably.
they are, but the thing
Um,
is, I don't think that they're selling to the CCP. I think that they're just selling to the highest bidder in whoever that is, however many that is. They're scummy in the other way. They're not helping the country's enemies. They're just helping the enemies of the public.
yeah. Um, So yeah, we'll see what happens to OnePlus. I'm sure it's gonna be really fun, and we don't get to have smartphones here. And oh wait,
Yeah, we skipped that
okay,
one because we
yeah,
did it.
all right,
So we're
yep,
back to
okay,
good
all right, we're
news.
done. We're done with government shenanigans, guys. We're done.
Yes.
We're for now. You can now pretend for a little while that we're back in normal times. Um, and surprisingly, there is PNG news.
Yes.
Um, so I did. I'm not in the like media loop. I would say I'm like slightly aware of what happens over there with like video and audio codecs, and that's kind of fun. And eventually in like software projects, I learned like how ridiculous some of the stuff is. But I guess I never thought about the fact that PNG as an image format has just kind of like been done for a really long time. Like they sorted out in I don't know, did they say when the last update was? I think it was, or when the initial version was completed. Okay, they say over 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was in
Um
2003.
yeah, and my most recent experience with this was working on my image share web app, which lets you upload files from a bunch of legacy browsers, and it gives you a QR code to scan to download them on other stuff. And I found out that there were, in fact, web browsers that were new enough to support file uploads, but old enough to not support PNG images. uh, so I had to update that to like convert them to JPEG for those browsers. So now I know that PNG support didn't show up fully in web browsers until like 2000-ish, a little bit later for Internet Explorer, because that's how it goes with them. Um, and since then we've had a bunch of new, image formats that are supposed to kind of replace the use cases for PNG, but in the style of, the XKCD comic. It just kind of adds to the pile. So there's a bunch of other formats now we have that are supposed to support lossless images in the same way. The big one is probably WebP, which supports lossy and lossless images, which makes it the best. Except a couple things still don't open it, so everyone hates it. And then there's like uh, what's the other one that's like based on AV1, AVIF?
Mhm.
Is kind of like the successor to that, and that's even less well supported. So I guess a couple different tech groups decided to just go back to the classics, and there is a new version of PNG. There's an updated PNG specification, and this is here we go. The background on this page actually kind of explains what happened, and they said uh, the W3C Time Text Working Group needed HDR support in PNG. A proposal was made, but a few experts decided we could do better. Momentum built up, and additional parties became interested. Before we knew it, we had representation from Adobe, Apple, the BBC, Comcast / NBC Universal, Google, Movie Labs, and of course W3C. and with all of them working together and figuring stuff out, they have released an updated specification for PNG images, and they're apparently working on 2 more. So the main thing here is proper HDR support. So this is something I don't know much about. I don't know where the HDR support is with other image formats. I know it's kind of a thing with AVIF and HEIC images. I don't think those are the same thing.
No.
Yeah, because HEIC is the MPEG group's thing. But yeah, so PNG should support high dynamic range properly, which is cool for all the monitors that now support that. And the spec also now supports animated PNGs. So this is one of those things where like it's been a thing for years, but it wasn't like officially official.
It was
So
sort
now
of a
it
thing.
is sort of a thing. But now it is officially official. So I don't actually know if I go to can I use what is the browser support for animated PNGs at this point? I think it's in Chromium.
Is it? I
Animated
thought it wasn't.
PNG. Uh, it's not even showing up. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'll put this in the YouTube chat.
Okay.
It is apparently supported on everything. Chrome has supported it since version 59 in June 2017. Firefox added it in version 79 in 2020. And Safari apparently got it in Safari 8, which was 2014. So everyone's got it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, one certain thing to note, I can't think of a single editing program that supports it, but that's a separate issue.
I have only ever seen a PNG in use for Discord. Discord uses it as one of the formats for stickers.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, though that being said, they note, actually, you know what? I could check this out. But they note that they have on among the companies that they have on board. Let's see. They mention the companies that support the new PNG spec: Chrome, Safari, Firefox, iOS, macOS. They mention Photoshop, DaVinci Resolve, and Avid Media Composer. Now, I have not checked it or thought to check it before, but I wonder if you can export something in DaVinci Resolve. Because, like I said, I've never seen it mentioned before, but it would kind of make sense if it's there. PNG.
Yeah, and you could also just export this stuff into your video format of choice and then run it through ImageMagick.
Yeah, that's true.
Probably FFmpeg supports it, I'm assuming, because it supports everything.
Okay, technically PNG is in the list. It doesn't. Let's see. It supports RGB at 8 and 16 bits at the same time resolution, and it lists a frame rate. So I guess this is a thing. I don't know if this is actually exporting an APNG or just PNGs, like a bunch of frames of PNGs. And without running this, which, sorry, I don't want to do at the moment, I can't tell, but I'm mildly curious. That does interest me a little bit. Not that I expect to use it, just I find it interesting. I might fiddle with that later just for goofs.
Yeah, so there is HDR support. There's animated PNGs. It officially supports EXIF data. So, cameras or image editors or whatever can embed information in the file for other stuff to use. EXIF data is really fun. That is also something I've messed around with a lot with image share, and it is very fun. Um, like
And
with the 3DS, here's my 3DS right here. In fact, um, image share's original purpose was the uploading images or uploading game screenshots from the 3DS to a modern device. And the 3DS embeds some info for that in the EXIF data, so image share reads that on the upload. And in the more recent updates, I have it matched against a game library. So when you upload the image, it will scan the ID in the EXIF data. It'll find out which game it is, and it'll put the name of that in back in the EXIF data. And that's really cool because then when I save it on my phone, I can open the Photos app on my phone and search like Animal Crossing, and it'll come up because it knows to look for that in the EXIF data. So there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with there. So I think this was also a thing that PNG could do, but it was not officially official, and now it is officially official.
yes. So I feel like it bears noting that even if something is official, it doesn't mean that it's going to work everywhere. So just keep that in mind.
Yes, it just means it's standardized. So
Yeah.
anything that is supposed to support this in the future should be doing it that way and not its own weird hacky way. Ideally.
Assuming it supports some of these things at all. Like, there's a whole lot of you never know. Like, you could, there could certainly be people developing software today that are like, you know what? All we care about is the old PNG spec. That's what we're going to support. And they just never support any of this stuff.
And if it doesn't, it just ignores the data. Like image should still work and everything.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with that said, look, I'm just gonna say, and I said this just last week. I'm always kind of excited to see certain specs get pushed forward, get improved. I've always been generally I generally prefer to use PNGs for a lot of things just because generally lossless. And the quality is pretty good for the size compared to like TIFFs or any of the other generally lossless formats. So I'm pretty happy to see this. Also, generally, I kind of like the idea of animated PNGs maybe taking the place of GIFs finally. Please, please, please. I'm begging you, world. Let's have this. Because, by the way,
I mean, if something is going to replace GIFs, it has to be something that's lossy. And I don't believe that's
when
PNG right now still.
When you need something that is lossless, because sometimes you want lossy, yes. Other times you want lossless. And there's not a particularly good animation format that isn't huge. And not to say PNGs are super efficient, but they can be compared to most of the other options. And also, don't forget, PNG support transparency. So you could have, I'm assuming, I mean, I don't know that this is absolutely true, but I think it's a relatively safe bet. You can have animated transparent PNGs, I think.
Yeah, you can, because that's what Discord implemented it for like animated stickers. Those were I know they support other formats now, but I think initially it was only animated PNG if you wanted animation.
Okay.
So yeah, and you if I know you could do lossy animation with WebP, but the support for that is still we don't have a good GIF replacement because no one will support a thing as universally as GIFs. That's the problem. It's the same problem as fucking FAT32, where FAT32 sucks. It is like a million years old, but because Mac and Windows and Linux can't all agree on a new thing to replace it perfectly, we still have to use it for cameras.
Yeah.
Like we've had XFAT for I don't know how long, but like I think uh some devices just don't like that. Macs will still not write to NTFS, which is really cool and fun. Um, I love technology. It's really cool how it goes super fast and it always becoming more advanced. But then there's like a couple of things where it's like we are stuck in the past forever because no one can agree.
It's not forever. Not technically.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's all kind of a mess. I don't think we can deny that. Um,
Yeah. The furthest we've come to solving it is just by converting everything to WebP on like the server end, and we call it a day. um. So yeah. PNG update. That's fun.
indeed.
I think it would also be fun if more abandoned technologies got updates. Like let's get a new spec for MP3. That sounds fun.
Oh God, no.
We don't need to because
Yeah, that
we already have
so many good audio formats have already come along to replace that one. I think
we've got
I think
we've
that one
got
gets to be dead.
Opus. We've got whatever what's WebM audio? I think that's Opus. It uses Opus.
Maybe.
WebM. Yeah, it uses Vorbis or Opus for audio. And then video is VPA, VP9, or AV1. Media encoding is fun. It's really fun. I especially love trying to develop things that are supposed to accept container formats, because container formats are just like whatever you want. You can throw a fucking Windows Media video and MP3 audio in a container, and it's like, yep, sure, that's valid. That's a file, I guess. It's really fun.
Yeah, that falls into the
You think that's an
category of the
MP4
why
video just because? Yeah, you think that's a MPEG video because it ends in .mp4? Oh, buddy, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
That could be anything in there.
Container formats are kind of the big middle finger to anyone who is trying to figure out what they're dealing with. Because man,
Yeah,
container formats, yeah, you never know what you're gonna get.
I've again run into this working on image share where I had to work on parts that were parsing files based on the file extension, and let me tell you, that is a mistake.
Oh yes,
Because those files can be anything. The file ending will lie to you. The MIME type information will lie to you. Everything about files is gaslighting you. You just have to actually inspect it yourself.
It's funny because we never knew that this day was going to come before it came, but sadly, I think we all have to acknowledge Apple was right back in the old Mac OS days. Back when they basically said, you know what? File endings are a joke. We're just going to have metadata on all of the files so that the operating system will have to just know what stuff is. It was insane at the time. It never should have been that way, but dude, it happened, and that was the reality of it.
I know, and it has been not fun for me because I again, while working on image share, I found out that a lot of web browsers they don't know what those files are either. So
Nope.
when they like when I was trying to do like debugging with some old version of IE or something for Mac, and I would upload a PNG, and the browser would tell the server like, I think this is a text file. I don't know. You figure it out. So I love computers. Yeah, that's new PNG. Sounds fun.
All right.
And next
So,
thing is new phone. There's a phone.
new phone, who dis?
New phone. So Nothing, which is the company founded by Carl Pei.
Pay.
Carl Pei after he left OnePlus and decided to just do exactly the same marketing style that is personally infuriating to me, but I can't deny works. He's released a couple phones now, a couple accessories. Now there is a Nothing Phone 3, which I have to give props to Engadget here because they were a little bit braver than me, and they didn't go along with Nothing's official product naming scheme, where they put the number in parentheses, which makes writing sentences and titles and everything infuriating. But I did it anyway in my article, but they didn't. So shout out to Engadget. Um, but yeah, basically, this company is very pretentious. I think the best way I can put it. Um,
That's a
so
choice. Sure.
yes, I don't have much of a other opinion of Nothing other than its marketing. This phone is a little bit interesting because it is another flagship phone. So it's got, a big honkin' AMOLED screen. It's got the Snapdragon 8 series chip in it. It doesn't have the Snapdragon 8 Elite, which I think a couple people were hoping for, but it just has the normal, you know, this year's Snapdragon flagship chip. Not the flagship, but the normal one. And kind of the polarizing change here is they have given up on the LED lights that were kind of their main selling point initially. Was like, look guys, we made a phone and it is unique because it can do fun light colors, which yeah, that is fun, that is unique. They decided we're not going to do that anymore. So instead of the fun lights, they added a circular LED panel to the back of the phone. And this isn't like a Galaxy Flip situation where it's like another high res screen. It is like a dot matrix style low resolution LED screen. And they showed off that it can do stuff like a digital clock you can show on there, stopwatch, battery indicator. It's like a tiny secondary screen, almost like those PC keyboards that have little screens on them. It's like that same intended use case. It's just like, here's a screen you put stuff on. And they said they were working on a feature where like if you get a call, it'll show like the caller ID on it. I think they also have a mode where if you're like holding up the phone to take a selfie with the rear cameras, it'll show like a little low resolution preview and that little dot, again like the Galaxy Flip do, but like actually helpful because that's a full resolution phone screen on the back. Um, so no more lights. You get a little circle instead. The From what I understand, the Nothing Phone fans are not super pleased. I did look at their forums because I was trying to look for a source link for my own article, and there were a lot of people complaining. um, I think the lights are fun. Again, because I'm Tron Legacy brained. I do like the random bright accent lighting on stuff. That they did ditch that, unfortunately.
Um, and just in case anyone somehow doesn't remember this, here's I'm just putting up an image borrowed from ZDNet. This is a photo of the back lighting on the Nothing Phone 2. And each of these individual LED strips could be lit up individually. So they could have like animated patterns. And if I recall, I think that you could even run software that could basically like attach specific meanings to individual lights. So if like a certain one was blinking or on or off, it could be kind of like the equivalent of a status indicator. I don't know how much that ever got used. I know it was a thing. I don't know that it was much of a thing. So that was interesting. I'll give him that. It was an interesting idea. I don't know that.
Yeah, this is
really...
definitely like a weird off take on the LED light indicators of the also the sidebar, like the side screen overflow on like the Galaxy Edge phones. Back in the day. It's that same like little secondary thing that does stuff so you don't have to wake up your entire phone. But
yeah, and
yeah,
I'll give
think
him
the
this.
lights are fun.
I think the little rear circle of LEDs, that's a neat idea. If it actually works the way that their website makes it look, where it's honestly really animated, that would get super annoying very quickly. But if it's more subdued and only comes on once in a while, I think that's fine. I think it's interesting. It's probably more useful than those LED strips, but also I'm not sure how useful this really is.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought like if you're gonna do this, maybe at least make it a little bit bigger. There's not a lot of utility you're getting out of
right
like a camera lens sized circle. Not a lot of pixels there. I understand it's mostly for fun, but like I don't know. Could be a little bit bigger.
Probably, yeah. I mean, yeah, it could definitely be bigger. I'm not sure how much bigger you'd want it to be, but I'm gonna go with a slightly different point on it and ask, why is it on the top corner and why not center it? Because I get what they did with the design in the back of this phone. They're placing obviously 3 camera lenses, or is that 4? Well, whatever they're doing with the other top corner, because that kind of looks like maybe a depth sensor or something next to a camera sensor.
Yeah.
And then in the dead center they have the flashlight. Okay, that's fine, I guess, but I would have actually moved the flashlight either down to lower center or moved it to where the where that LED display is now, and move the display to the center. I feel like it just would make more sense there. I don't know. It's to me it's a positioning thing. But not only that, yes, they could have just made it larger. I don't know how much larger you wanted to make it though, because at a certain point you're at the risk of like making it as large as the phone.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole back design is just very bizarre. Like it's not symmetrical at all, and nothing is aligned.
Hardly any phones are.
I know, but like all of the camera or all of the black circles on the back are like not in any kind of pattern.
Right.
There's the 2 next to each other on the bottom that are like aligned with each other, and then there's the whatever the one in the top left corner is doing over there, hugging the side of the phone, and then the LED panel is much closer to the top. Kind of freaking me out. I don't like it.
Yeah, when it comes to design, they could have done a better job here. I'm not mad at it, but I it feels a little bit like they threw darts at a wall to get this design. And it's like, yeah, we'll put this here, we'll put that here. Oh, hey, look at how lucky we were. We got two things to line up. And other than that, yeah, I don't see a point to all the like forced asymmetry. Also, some of the other markings and designs on the back, it just leave me thinking that this seems intentionally weird and like offset. At least I would like to think it's intentional. I think.
Yeah, I don't know. This is also one of those discussions where I feel like the longer I go, the more you kind of sound like a crazy person, because smartphones are so weird where all of them are like as full screen on the front as possible with the manufacturing constraints that exist. So the only way to differentiate your product from a design perspective is to do weird stuff with the back, and that's why like every iPhone, every Galaxy S phone like moves the cameras around a little bit just for fun, just to, feel something. And so we end up talking at length about like how the back of a phone looks, which by the way is the part that you don't look at when you're using the phone. I don't know if you know this.
Well, it's also
So
the
it
part that's
just ends
usually
up
covered up
being
because you put a case on it.
right. Yeah. It gets really weird. I'll
Though
say like I think it looks weird, and that's my final take.
though in this instance, I am going to add the specific note of imagine the case for this phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You have to have
Yeah.
a giant cutout that is going to be that has to go the entire width of the phone on the back for at least the top length of it. You could
Well, they
have
just they just poke holes in it, and it ends up looking like a spider.
right, and I was going to
Spider
say you could have kind of a Swiss cheese back where there's space or stuff going in between the lenses, but you basically just have to have this giant cutout on the back that goes all the way edge to edge for at least the top row.
Yeah,
And
or just go clear case,
well,
which
right, but I'm not even talking about like color of case or anything like that. I'm just talking about how big of a cutout that has to be. That's
right, you're defeating the purpose of the case.
a little
Yeah.
bit. And it's going to look really weird, plus bonus points for the fact that what do you do with that empty gap on the second row? Do you have that cutout go like back up and cover that random
Right.
square?
The case has a notch in
Yeah, a corner notch on top of it. And I guess that's solved if you do have like just individual holes for each of these lenses and things. But man, it feels like they did everything they could to make this design as clumsy as possible for actual customers.
Yeah.
It looks interesting in photos. I'm not saying it looks good or bad. That's a separate discussion, which we already just had and agreed it's kind of bad. But it's also really, really complicated for any sort of accessory case. So, yeah, I don't think that this was thought
like
out.
the AutoCAD guy like speed and got this, and he was like, "What the fuck is what do I do here?"
I also just had another kind of weird thought about this. It's pretty trivial, but if you've ever seen those like clip-on camera lenses or like filter clip-ons, let's see, I have one right here, just to demonstrate what I'm talking about, because I know most people have seen these, but if you haven't, this makes a lot more sense just actually physically seeing it. Okay, so change the layout real quick. There we go. Okay, So if you want to put like a, let's say an ND filter on your phone, something like that, a lot of times there are these like clip-on lenses, and you can basically just uh, put it on like this, and it just goes over your phone's cameras. Um, the neat part about most phones is a lot of these things can be put on so they don't cover the LED flash, or some of the other sensors. That you can usually just kind of orient it so it only covers your cameras. That's not an option on this phone, not really. Like, you're almost guaranteed you're going to cover the LED flash that's there at the dead center. And you're probably also going to cover whatever like that depth sensor is, or whatever that's there in that first block. So yeah, I think they probably goofed in that way too. And look, these are relatively niche items, so probably not going to matter. Hardly anyone, and I don't think anyone's getting this phone for photography purposes. But just another little gotcha in their decision making, if that's what we're going to call it.
Yep. And this phone will be, you can pre-order it starting July 4th in the US. It will start at $800, which gets you 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. And there's a higher end model for $899 that is 16 gigs of RAM and I believe 512 gigs of storage. So I mean, it seems cost competitive. It's got all the other stuff you would expect in a flagship phone. It's got wired and wireless charging. It's got I believe it's IP68. So they said also, I think they said Android updates for 5 years and security patches for 7. So if they live up to that, then that should be fine. And I mean, really the only potential downside here besides the design is, like, I'm sure their camera optimization isn't as good as maybe what you could get from Samsung or Apple in this price segment, but
or even Google.
I think that's really good. Yeah,
a Pixel A phone is almost certainly going to blow this out of the water.
Yeah. So, yeah, I did check some Nothing Phone 2 reviews while I was working on my article, and all the camera reviews were kind of like, it's fine. So I'm sure this will also be fine.
Yeah, and in fairness, these days, unless what you do involves a lot of photography, you probably don't care. Very rarely are the phones so different, or very rarely is the quality threshold that big of a factor, unless you're doing very specific things or need very high performance or high quality. In which case, to be fair, you probably also don't want to pick Samsung, Apple, or Google anyway, because they're not actually the ones that are delivering those. But their software just makes things seem prettier out of the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say on this. You're right. It's price competitive in its way. So, but
speaking of price competitive,
yes.
Last thing on the list is there is a new rumor from one of the 2 sources of Apple rumors, which is the guy on Twitter that I'm gonna somehow manage to pronounce it wrong.
Ming Chi Kuo.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that wrong. So
I should have let you. I kind of want to know how you'd say it.
No, please don't. So they are reporting on the evil everything app that Apple is working on a low-cost MacBook powered by an iPhone chip. So, like a MacBook SE, they're not using SE anymore, but that's kind of the vibe. And they said it will supposedly have a 13-inch screen and an A18 Pro chip, which is the one that's currently in the iPhone 16 Pro. So it is one step below the base M chip. And they said it could come in silver, blue, pink, and yellow finishes. So once again, assuming this is true, Apple is reserving the fun colors for the cheap devices because they're cowards. I would have loved to have a green MacBook Pro, but that was not what the universe decided. And they mentioned that this could enter production in the fourth quarter of 2025 or first quarter of 2026. And I put next to no faith in this specific rumor. I'm just so jaded on the Apple manufacturing leaks and rumors. I feel like every 6 months I see an article that is like the folding iPhone will enter manufacturing next year, and then it never does. So I don't know if this one is true specifically. I just think it's a fun thing to speculate about because Apple has been in a weird place where they don't technically have low and mid-range laptops. However, their older laptops stick around for a long time, and for a while now, I don't know if they're still being manufactured, but you can still find M1 MacBook Airs for like $500-$600 new, and that will still absolutely slap any Windows laptop in that price range. And there's been so even though there's not like technically a MacBook made for that market segment of like under $800-$900 ish, there's still options in there. So the question then becomes like, if there is a purpose-built cheap MacBook, would there be a reason to buy it? When previous generation normal MacBooks are readily available at pretty good prices. Like even the current base model MacBook Air that has an M4 chip in it, I believe I've dropped to $800, more than a few times on Amazon, which is really good. Like that's a really good laptop, really fast. It's gonna have battery life that blows the pants off of any Windows laptop because Intel and AMD still can't get their shit together. So the question becomes like, where does a budget MacBook fit in? And this is the same thing we ran into with the iPhone 16e, where Apple already put out a purpose-built budget iPhone, but you can just get the previous gen iPhones and it's better in almost every way. Like when that came out, I was comparing it to my iPhone 15, and it's like, my iPhone 15 is better, except it doesn't have the newest chip. But it's like, I don't care about the 3 games that are exclusive to that chip or the Apple Intelligence stuff. So I wouldn't buy this, and I wouldn't really recommend other people do. So I do wonder if Apple puts out a budget MacBook, will they be repeating that?
Okay.
And Austin also said Apple will do anything but put macOS on an iPad. Yes, that's true.
You know,
Is there...
I do agree and believe that, but at the same time, I think feel like the definition of what is macOS actually becomes kind of a weird, one of those weird think piece sort of arguments where all of a sudden it's like, oh, but wait, will they? Will one day we be running like certain Mac apps on iPad OS? We might. Okay, so You're right. Well, okay. So, was there anywhere that someone predicted like a price point for this, or is it just cheaper?
No,
Okay.
it's just implied because it would not have an M chip in it. Although I
Okay.
think
I
the
mean,
original report did say low cost, but yeah, there's not a specific price.
I really, I think this hinges so much on what that low price would be. So, okay, I think about the original iPhone SE, and if we're using that as our reference point, the iPhone SE was an objectively cheap phone. Like, price wise, it was cheap. Manufacturing, it was cheap because they were reusing old manufacturing processes, not just on the processor itself, but they were literally reusing the assembly process for earlier phone models. And they were even reusing parts. Like there was a known fact that they just over manufactured certain parts and were like, you know what, we got a warehouse full of this stuff. Let's we've got like a crap load of iPhone 5 cases left, or chassis, so let's just use those.
I mean, and cases. They work with the cases too,
Yes, and that
which was
was
great. Which was
oh yeah,
great for everyone
I
involved.
sang the praises of that, and I still do and will. And you know what? I dare you now, Samsung, Google. Listen, guys, you want me to say really nice things about you for a week? That's all you have to do is announce a phone that is case compatible with any other old model of phone. All of a sudden, if all the old cases for the Pixel 6 are valid again, I will high five the crap out of you tomorrow in a heartbeat. You will get me to actually say great things about you for an entire effing episode. Just do that. It's not even a big ask. And a bunch of companies will love you for it. But anyway, because I guarantee there's a bunch of companies that have some product just sitting in warehouse shelves. Okay, so anyway, okay, so the idea that these would have a not M series chip, that I don't believe. If it is presumably just an iPhone chip and not an M series chip, is that what the rumor actually claimed? I'm unclear.
Yeah,
on this.
that's the supposedly firm thing, is it would use the iPhone 16 Pro chip. Which
I'm gonna go with hard. I don't believe it. Literally, I don't believe it, because there are things that supposedly the M series chip provides that the operating system takes fairly extensive use of, and for that reason, I don't think they would do that. Literally, like it hurts strategic direction for the OS. It hurts them strategically for, man, I hate saying this, but Apple intelligence.
Yeah, like I would. The interesting thing here for me is, I think performance would still not be an issue.
Oh no,
Because,
I
like,
think that's fine.
that's still that's still going to be way better than, whatever, Intel and AMD are throwing in a laptop that's $600 $700. The issue is all the other stuff in the SoC. Like, that chip would not support Thunderbolt. It would support USB 3 because that's what the iPhone Pros have now.
Mm-hmm.
But it would just be that. It wouldn't be USB 4 or Thunderbolt. It would be, again, I don't have the specs of this in front of me, and I'm sure Apple could tweak some of this if they were going to do this anyway, but like, I'm sure the IO is severely limited in other ways, so like maybe no external monitors at all on something like this, or
here's the thing: the
low
iPhone
res.
the iPhone does support external monitors.
Yeah.
I think they can and would support exactly one. And it would be one, even if the hardware can support more, they will choose not to. They will definitely make sure that it only supports one. Because there are other Macs out there that really don't support more than one, and they can't allow this to have better capabilities than those. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
it would
And,
100% only be one external at most. And to be fair,
yeah,
they
like that.
might choose to restrict so that it wouldn't even support one. I'm not. I'm just saying it definitely can do that. They just might choose not to.
Yeah. And I think the biggest concern here would be the memory,
Yeah.
because if it's a chip designed for the iPhone, the RAM's got I don't know how much RAM the iPhone 16 Pro has. It's probably like 6 gigs or something, maybe 8. Um, but Apple should not be making a new computer in the year of our Lord 2025 with 8 gigs of RAM. That's going to be an issue.
Okay, so the iPhone 16 Pro, at least according to Google's AI results, it says that the RAM is 8 gigs. So, and I was going to say, I tend to agree. I think that this would be an 8 gig machine. I don't think that they would do a
Yeah, I
16
mean,
gig option, because the whole point of the SE phone was literally just we're making a single SKU. It is cheap. Actually, were there multiple SKUs of the SE, like with different storage capacities?
yeah, yeah, there's different
Okay.
storage.
Um. So I
Because
guess
I think when I bought mine, the base one was 64 gigs, and I was like, absolutely not. And I got the 128 gig one.
okay. So
Um,
all right, that's a thing. Then they could theoretically sort of ride that line. Um. But yeah, I don't man, I just don't know that I buy that it is not an M series chip. I would much sooner believe that they would just take an older model, like, now that obviously they're not selling any M2s, or and the M3 is basically out, um or will be soon enough. I could see them packing in an M1 or M2 or M3 in an SE model and basically saying, "Hey, we still had a bunch of these left. We're selling them now." So,
yeah,
and
because the M1 is still great. Like you
yeah,
get that, you
I
put
I'm
in
using
16 gigs of memory, and it's still gonna knock the socks off a bunch of PCs.
yeah, and okay, granted, I'm using an M1 Max, so it's not a regular
Yeah.
M1,
Well,
but
I was using base M1
yeah,
until 2 weeks ago, and it's fine.
yeah,
Didn't
and
have any problems.
considering the market that they're trying to sell this to, let's keep that firmly in mind. That we're not talking about people who are going to be editing tons of video. We're not talking about people who are going to play like high-end games. We're not talking about people who are going to be like almost everything else I can think to name. It's stuff that actually doesn't require much anyway. Uh, we're not talking about like graphic designers working on high-end projects, or even like 3D editing or anything like that. We're talking about people who presumably it's grandma and grandpa who need a computer that can browse the web. That we're talking about your average like regular person who just doesn't care about computing tasks. They just need it again, for the things that everyone needs a computer for and nothing more. And we're also talking about
Right.
like college students, but on the poor end. The ones where the idea of spending, let's say, 900 or well, let's say $900 for a computer. Actually, what with education discount? I didn't check that. Um,
I mean, the Amazon price for MacBooks are going to be cheaper than the actual education discount.
I
Um,
know, but I just want to see. Um, come on, man. Just show me what I want to see.
yeah, the M4 Air is 850 right now.
Oh, really? I'm seeing. Oh, is that on Amazon?
Amazon, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's $8.99 on the Apple Store with education discount. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so anyway, um, yeah, if the prospect of spending, let's say, 850 or 900 on a MacBook Air versus, oh, I could get an SE for, I don't know, let's spitball 700. Maybe they're going really cheap and it's going to be like, do we think they could do 500, like a 499?
I think they could do
I mean, they
lower than
could
500.
they could
what
definitely
what
do
would they
it,
would
but
do? Yeah, uh, I feel like 600 is probably where they would stick it.
probably.
It would depend on what the drawbacks are. We
Right, and
know what those are.
I was going to bring that up because number one, out of the gate, no questions asked, display. Like 100%, the display is where they sacrifice everything here.
That's the easiest thing to cut, and it's still fine.
Yeah, because you don't need
drop that sucker down to like whatever Apple originally called Retina. Like that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, scale it back to the lower end Retina pixel density. They're not going to go sub Retina for sure. But I could see them scaling back on pixel density enough to get back to regular Retina. I imagine also just get rid of some of the color capability, like just using panels that are cheaper to manufacture. They don't have to lose like the same range of color, but they don't have to have like HDR output. They don't have to have quite the same tuning so that they're like color precise. You can save, I'm guessing, probably about $20 in manufacturing in component cost just by putting it in a display that still looks really good. It just isn't going to be as perfect. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, again, I went from my I recently swapped out my M1 MacBook Air and my M1 Mac Mini for a M4 Pro MacBook Pro, and there is definitely a quality difference in the screen. But like the M1 Air screen, it's fine. It's not terrible. It's perfectly usable, and it's, if Apple was fine sticking to the non-notch design, that's very easy to manufacture.
Right. Which actually, now that you mention it, this raises the wildest of questions to me. Okay, non-notch design. Is there a webcam? Because this is, without a doubt,
they wouldn't sell a laptop without a webcam.
Exactly.
I don't think they'd do that.
Now, this seems like the model that actually makes sense to do that because that's a great way to cut cost. However, it is also the model where absolutely every person buying it wants a webcam built in. They don't want
it's just going to go on top of the screen like normal.
Yeah. And that's an interesting prospect to me because, I mean, I've said repeatedly, sell me one without a webcam. I don't want a notch. I want the exact same display that I have now, but without that notch. Just give me that computer because I don't want the webcam that's built in. And so, obviously they're not doing that. And Apple, screw you for not giving the customer what they want. Because I guarantee there's so many people that want this, including all the people who work in companies or government facilities or whatever that can't have cameras in their freaking computers. Like, it's actually mandated. They're not allowed to. Sell the product those people want. Anyway.
They can compromise on the screen. They can compromise on performance, but memory would be an issue.
Well, if all you're going to do is run Safari and maybe like a few small apps here or there, 8 gigs is fine. It sucks. I mean, it's
It's
not good,
it's
but it
yeah,
works.
I mean it's fine, but I don't think they would do it just because they would be like they wouldn't want to future proof that.
Right.
I think it's in the same category as like the late stage Intel. Master's like it's totally fine, but like they don't want to deal with this forever. Um,
Um
so yeah,
right. And it
the
certainly
the
does raise that
memory,
issue, but then I think about the iPhone SE. The iPhone SE was one of those phones that aged like garbage. It aged so badly. Um, and everyone with an iPhone SE pretty much agrees, at least for the first and second generation SEs. I don't know if the third one came out any better, but the first gen, that thing was, that thing seemed like such an amazing phone for probably the first 9 months, at least for its price. And then you started seeing kind of the cracks in the exterior. And I'd say by the time it was about 18 months old, it was pretty obvious that that was not as good of a phone as it should have been or could have been,
yeah.
despite its really low price. The second gen, they obviously did get it better. That phone lasted its 2 years, but I don't think it really was designed to go much past that. And you'd have to tell me how the iPhone SE3 worked out. I don't, I never touched one of those, but um,
That phone's issue was just the the small screen.
I,
Like it
yeah,
just
that
got to a
makes
point
sense.
where websites, not even talking about native apps, but like websites were not built for 16 by 9 phone screens that small anymore.
Right.
Um, so I mean that wouldn't be an issue on a laptop. But yeah, I they can compromise on the screen, they can compromise on performance, but I think I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending a new Apple laptop with 8 gigs of memory. You know, maybe they'll do something fun like 12, and it'll be like, okay, I don't know. But I think that would be very difficult. They can compromise on the, you know, this is going back to like what could Apple do versus what Apple is too proud to do. But like they could totally go back to the glory days of polycarbonate MacBook and roll that again. I don't think they would, but they could, and it'd probably be fine. Um, but that's something they could cheap out on. They can cheap out on some smaller stuff like no Thunderbolt, uh, you know, maybe no fingerprint sensor, no Touch ID. You know, smaller stuff like that is fine.
Well, I think if they did 8 gigs of RAM and 256 in storage, which I know sounds like nothing, but again, if you're making this basically for the web browsing crowd, that is more or less enough. And okay, we could debate the RAM for a while, but 256 storage, again, like that alone, that does save them a little bit of money. Not a lot. It's really funny how small the component cost difference is between 256 and 512. But if they're really trying to skimp and save and also trying to really create a good value proposition for, all right, you're looking at the SE. We got you in the door with the SE, but let's tell you about the Air. And then they try to upsell you $300 or whatever to go to the Air.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I don't know which compromises they would be willing to do to get a laptop down to mid-range pricing. I think there is a massive opportunity for them, if for no other reason than Windows has become so hostile to like average person. Like I was setting up, it's over here. I'm setting up a laptop with a fresh install of Windows 11 for family members, and it's like I have to turn off so much fucking garbage, and I know that's going to turn itself back on in like 3 months, and there's not a lot I can do about it. But like Windows sucks. Chromebooks are Chromebooks. They still have all the same advantages and limitations they had a couple years ago. And so far, macOS has avoided most of those dark patterns and annoying things. And I know I'm sure it will happen to an extent. And Apple proved they're not above that by sending out a push notification to everyone about their new movie. Um, but I don't know. Right now, I think there's absolutely a market for a entry level Mac that's portable,
Okay.
especially since the M4 Mini I think is constantly on sale for like $400, and it's crazy.
Um. So I don't know if this was quite how you intended it, but there obviously the aspect of Windows becoming more user hostile is there. I'm also inclined to maybe argue or call out that in a big way, I think that this is also just um, Apple is recognizing that there is that the economy right now is strained in such a way that customers really just can't afford the $1,000 Mac anymore. So, or don't want to, or choosing not to. So that does kind of reiterate the obvious point that I think it's a safe bet to say
Right.
a lot of people
Eventually,
don't
you
want
run out
that.
of people who are willing to spend $1,000 plus for a laptop,
Right.
and you have to go elsewhere.
Um, and obviously, this is also a good opportunity for Apple to kind of play the let's gain new customer crowd, or the new customer strategy. Um, if they play the game right, then they basically get to say, yeah, you know what, we know that there's someone out there who can't afford anything too special, and we can maybe offer something that uh, will get them today, and then when they come back to buy a bit newer, better computer in say 6 months, or not 6 months, in a few years, then they'll at that point be hooked and they'll want to go Apple all the time, all no matter what. That might be the game. Um, and hope so. Certainly, I like that prospect. Um, so I don't know. We also haven't kicked around the possibility. What if they made this not a severely compromised model? What if they're actually going to make basically kind of like what the Pixel A was to the Pixel 6, was it? That was the first, whatever the first A series was versus its Pixel, like full Pixel counterpart. What if they basically come along and say, you know what? Here's the specs of the MacBook Air. Same thing. And maybe the processor will be the downgrade. They'll technically put in the iPhone Pro chip, but maybe it'll still have the same RAM options. Let's say it starts at 16 gigs, or only 16 gigs. Let's say it has 512 of storage. Maybe they put it in the polycarbonate instead of aluminum shell, and I don't know, like all the things that we think would be compromises just aren't there, or at least they're not perceivable compromises. Maybe this is that crazy, really good thing, and it'll still have its compromises hidden under the covers. Like we could probably sit for an hour picking apart. Oh, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. But at the same time, if you're just looking at a spec sheet, it's like, holy crap, it's basically a MacBook Air, like a modern MacBook Air, except
Right.
these tiny little spec sheet differences. And it's not impossible. I'm not saying it's likely. It's just not impossible. They could do that. They're Apple. If they want to, they could eat they could eat some lost profit. They could basically just go all in on this in some goofy way, and they could come out ahead with it. It's not an impossibility. It's just unlikely. It's just not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, again, this goes back to the thing of like, Apple could absolutely take the guts of a MacBook Air and put it in the cheapest plastic this world can make and sell it for much cheaper. But they do have some pride, surprisingly. Um, sometimes it's often misplaced, but it is there.
Well, if they have pride, they probably should have accessed it at least a little bit before they released the Vision Pro. But hey, that's a jab for another time that we will obviously get to keep jabbing at over and over and over again. Anyway, so unless, do you have any other thoughts on this?
Nope, I just hope it's real at some point.
I do too. I think I don't know. The one thing that I hold reservation on is literally very specifically the part about it being a iPhone chip instead of an M series chip. That one thing, if true, I think is a really big sacrifice, and it harms their app development ecosystem, and it's going to make OS development kind of a mess for probably years to come. So in that one detail, if that part's true, I'm not happy about it. I think that sucks. If that part is a mistake or a misunderstanding or whatever, and all the rest of it would presumably be true, that there's basically an SE style thing, that I'm in for. I don't want it, but I want that to exist because it would dramatically increase the potential consumer base for Macs. And it's not that I want to see Apple win per se. It's that being that I'm trying to get around to finishing a Mac app that I can sell, it would be ideal for me to have more customers. So yes, this is entirely a self-serving notion, but also it would be good in the sense that maybe like more game developers would also feel inclined to target a market that has more Macs, even if they're not all really gaming centric. But yeah, okay.
Yep.
So since we are out of topics, as we often are, do you have anything you'd like to pitch, mention, discuss, or toss into the vapors?
Go to spacebar.news and put your email in and subscribe. That's it.
Well, that sounds about right. And as for me, I will be back this weekend with some Overwatch gaming on Saturday and Sunday. I will be back next week with Corbin for another RambleCast. And somewhere in the next few days, I will post some details to Discord if anyone would like to help this channel via their purchases. Then you can I will have a simple system for basically creating affiliate links. And yeah, that's about it. So of course, if you'd like to support the channel in the classic sense, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And a huge thanks to supporters of the channel: Austin, Carson, David, Diablo, and Alyssa. Y'all are wonderful human beings. And of course, huge thanks to those who came by and were in the chat room. Always love to see people here. But with that, we've come to an end on this one, and I hope everyone has an excellent rest of their week. I'll see you in the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.